In the previous session, it was described that Arjuna, on seeing the kinsmen assembled on the opposite side for fighting, he became overwhelmed with compassion, and he began to experience so many different symptoms, and he began to reason what will be the consequences of killing his own kinsman in this battle. And he concluded that he is not going to fight. Now the scene is set for Krishna to instruct Arjuna in the signs of the self, in self-knowledge. So the Bhagavad Gita describes what was Krishna's response to Arjuna's condition. So the Bhagavad Gita says, seeing Arjuna full of compassion and very sorrowful, his eyes brimming with tears, Krishna began to speak to Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. Krishna describes Arjuna as Anarya. Arya means one who knows what are the values of life. One who conducts his life by spiritual values. Such a person is called an Aryan. So Arjuna is actually an Aryan. So it was not expected that Arjuna would behave in this way. Therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna that your behavior is not befitting an Aryan. Such behavior does not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. And Krishna tells Arjuna, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not befit you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and stand up and fight. Krishna is directly telling Arjuna, stand up and fight. Give up this petty weakness of heart. So Krishna is not at all approving the compassion that Arjuna felt for his kinsman. So Arjuna responds, he tells Krishna, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? Bhishma is the respectable grandfather, and Dronacharya is the respectable teacher of Arjuna. So Arjuna is considering that in particular, how can he fight in battle against respectable superiors like Bhishma and Drona? So Arjuna says, it is better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though they are greedy, they are nonetheless superiors. If they are killed, our spoils will be tainted with blood. So Arjuna is considering, even though he may fight against Duryodhana and the other Kauravas, but still he was thinking, how can I kill respectable superiors like Bhishma and Drona? In the previous chapter it was described when Krishna was asked by Arjuna, take my chariot between the two armies. Krishna took the chariot between the two armies and stopped right in front of Bhishma and Drona. What is the reason? Krishna stopped the chariot right in front of Bhishma and Drona. Krishna could read Arjuna's mind. Actually, Arjuna was hesitating to fight in the battle because right from the beginning he was thinking, how can I kill Bhishma and Drona? Though he did not mention that particular reason in the previous chapter. He gave so many reasons, but he never mentioned Bhishma and Drona. Now the real reason is coming out. When Krishna says, give up this weakness of heart, then Arjuna tells Krishna, how can I kill Bhishma and Drona? Now Arjuna also then thinks that actually it is my duty to fight. Because before the battle, every attempt was made to negotiate for peace. It's not that the Pandavas, when challenged by Duryodhana, directly came for fighting in the battle. No. Yudhishthira and all the other Pandavas, they tried to stop this battle, but they could not convince Duryodhana to avoid this battle. So, battle was inevitable. So now where is the question of Arjuna considering, how can I kill Bhishma and Drona? So therefore Arjuna is now thinking, actually it is my duty as a Kshatriya to fight. But although it is my duty, should I really fight in this battle? Wouldn't it be better for me to refrain from fighting and live by begging? See Arjuna's options. Either he has to fight in this battle and win the kingdom for his subsistence, or he has to, if he decides not to fight, then he has to just resort to begging. Actually, a Kshatriya never begs for food. Kshatriya never does that. So Arjuna is thinking of the extreme step. Now, all these considerations by Arjuna definitely prove that not only was he a great devotee of Krishna, but he was also highly enlightened and had complete control over his mind and senses. So Arjuna is the ideal fit candidate for receiving instructions in self-knowledge from Krishna. That is the conclusion that was given in the previous chapter. Such a kind and soft-hearted devotee is fit for receiving self-knowledge. So Arjuna is the ideal candidate for Krishna to instruct in self-knowledge. So Arjuna, considering that he is confused whether he should fight or not. He submits himself to Krishna. He tells, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness of heart. In this condition, my dear Lord Krishna, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So far, the talks were going on between two friends. Krishna and Arjuna were talking as friends. Now, when Arjuna is confused about his duty, he surrenders to Krishna. And he submits to Krishna, I am your disciple. No longer I am your friend. Kindly instruct me. So, it is a lesson for us that by nature's own way, all material activities are a source of perplexity for every human being in this world. So, in every step, there is perplexity. And to get out of this perplexing situations, it is said that one must approach a bona fide spiritual master, a guru, a proper guru, who can give one proper guidance in executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures instruct us to approach a proper guru. Now, these perplexities come without our desiring them. They are just like a forest fire which somehow blazes without anybody setting fire in the forest. So, it is the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, just like Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. Similarly, we should also surrender to a bona fide spiritual master if at all we are interested in solving the problems of life. So Krishna assumes the position of the teacher and he begins to instruct Arjuna. This is where the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita begin at this point. So first of all, Krishna tells Arjuna that those who are learned, they do not lament for the body. Arjuna was speaking learned words, but in spite of speaking so many learned words, Arjuna was lamenting for the body. So Krishna says, one who is wise, one who is really learned, he does not lament for any condition of the body. What is the basis of a learned person's understanding? Not lamenting for the body. It is the fact that every one of us, we are spirit soul, we are not the body. This is the basic teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. This is a very important lesson for everyone. All our problems in this world are because of our misconception that I am the body. Actually, we are not the body. The body is an external covering or a dress for the real I. I or you or any person in this world is actually a spirit soul. And Krishna also tells Arjuna that he himself, Krishna himself, Arjuna, and all the assembled kings are eternally individual beings. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals now, and they will continue to be individuals even in the future. So, Krishna establishes eternal individuality for everyone, including himself. So, therefore, there is no cause for lamenting for anyone. Now, Krishna goes on to explain that everyone is changing his body from boyhood to youth to old age. And this change of body can be understood when we realize that I had a body of a small child when I was born. Now I may be having the body of a young person. And I will later on have the body of an old man. So this change of body from childhood to youth to old age is taking place while I identify myself as the person who is undergoing this change of body. So therefore, Krishna says, you are different from your body. So what are you if you're not the body? You are the soul or the spirit within the body. You are the unchanging spirit within the body. And Krishna also tells Arjuna that in discharging one's duties, one should learn to tolerate non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress. Whatever happiness or distress we experience, anybody experiences, is due to the contact of the senses. Contact of the senses. Matra sparsha. So such change of body, the appearance of happiness and distress are compared to change, appearance and disappearance of the seasons. Just like winter and summer, they come and go. Like that, happiness and distress come and go, and one should learn to tolerate them and continue to discharge one's duties under all circumstances. Then Krishna says, if one is able to tolerate such happiness and distress and is steady in the discharge of his duties through all situations, then such a person is eligible for liberation. So Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, he had his duty to fight in this battle. So even if it is difficult for him to fight with his family members, considering his duty, he should actually engage himself in fighting this battle as Krishna is instructing him. Now, Krishna further describes that each one of us, we are spirit soul. This spirit soul is a very, very, very tiny spiritual atom. It is smaller than the material atom. So, we cannot see the spirit soul. We cannot see ourselves as soul. We can only see or perceive the body. But does it mean that we cannot see the soul, so we can never know anything about the soul? No. Krishna says, the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as consciousness which is spread throughout the body. So the symptom of the soul is consciousness. No one is able to destroy this imperishable soul. It's a characteristic of the soul. Or you, or I, or any person. For the soul, there is no death. The soul cannot be destroyed. So what we know as death is destruction of the body. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, only the material body is going to be destroyed at the time of death. Or when a person is killed, it's only the body which is destroyed. The person, as spirit soul, does not die, even when the body is killed. Therefore, he is telling Arjuna, you should not lament in the discharge of your duty as a Kshatriya. Now Krishna describes the wonderful characteristics of the spirit soul. For the soul there is never birth nor death. The soul is unborn, eternal, ever like existing, undying and primeval. The individual soul is also unbreakable. It cannot be destroyed by any weapon. It is insoluble. It cannot be destroyed even by water. Neither it can be burnt by fire. It cannot be destroyed by fire. It cannot be withered by the wind. So the soul, the real person inside the body, is indestructible in all ways, remains indestructible. So therefore the spirit soul is described as everlasting, all pervading, present everywhere. That means living entities are all over God's creation. So this establishes the fact that we see so many planets in the sky, especially at night. Now people wonder whether there is any life on the other planets. According to the Bhagavad Gita, there is life on every planet. Though the living conditions may be different on different planets, the living beings on different planets have suitable bodies for residing in those planets. So the spirit soul is described in this way as all-pervading, unchangeable. The soul does not change. It is the body which is changing. It is the body which is changing. The soul does not change. Like you identify yourself as the same person when you had the body of a child. Similarly, at the time of death, what happens? We give up this present body and we enter another body. So death is described in the Bhagavad Gita as a change of body. Also, Krishna describes the soul as invisible. Certainly, it is very, very, very small. So, in that way, it is invisible. It is described in the Upanishads that the soul is, what is the dimension of the soul? To give an idea of the dimension of the soul, it is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair point in size. It's so very small. Therefore, the soul is described as invisible. It is inconceivable. Who can conceive what is the soul? Because of the characteristics, the spiritual characteristics of the soul, we cannot conceive what is the soul or how it is existing in the body. It is immutable. It does not undergo any change. Whatever changes we see are changes of the body, or even the changes that we perceive in a person are the changes in the mind, body or mind. But the soul is different from the body and the mind. So soul is unchanging, it is immutable. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old and useless ones, the soul similarly accepts new bodies, material bodies, giving up old and useless ones. So, Krishna explains that when the body becomes old and useless, that is when we give up this body and we accept another new material body. That change of body is called death and rebirth, punarjanma. Krishna also says, for one who has taken birth, death is certain, and for one who dies, birth is certain. Therefore, he tells Arjuna, you should not lament in the unavoidable discharge of your duty as a Kshatriya. So finally, Krishna says, the body is temporary and the soul is eternal. Therefore, Arjuna need not lament for anyone. Now, so far, Krishna has explained the difference between the body and the soul. What is the nature of this body? The body is made up of matter, whereas the soul is of a different nature. It is of spiritual nature. It is spirit in constitution. Spirit means it is completely different from matter. Matter is subject to change. Matter is destructible, whereas spirit is indestructible. Spirit does not change. So, matter lacks identity. Matter lacks identity. Just like this table. Even though we identify this table as a definite object, but we know that when this table was made by a carpenter, he had some wood. So he used that wood, cut it into different pieces and assembled this table. Now this table can again be broken down and transformed into something else. Or this wood can be burnt. So matter is always changeable. Matter is always changeable. Whereas the spirit or the soul is unchangeable. It cannot be changed. Soul cannot be changed. That means you are essentially unchanging in your spiritual nature. So we may think that we see people change their habits or their behavior or their nature. So what is that which is changing in a person's behavior or nature or his characteristics, his habits? That is something to do with the mind or the body. Both the body and the mind of every person is material, and therefore it is subject to change. It is changeable. The real person inside the body is actually spirit, unchanging spirit. So Krishna has established this very important fact that each one of us, we are eternal, individual, unchanging spirit, soul. Now this means a lot. So what this really means will be further explained by Krishna in greater detail in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. But this is the beginning of spiritual understanding. Spiritual life begins with this understanding. Each one of us, we are eternal, individual, unchanging spirit, soul. We don't have death. As spirit, I don't die, you don't die. Nobody dies in that sense. So death is just a change of body. So therefore, the Bhagavad Gita instructs us that we should prepare ourselves for the change of body at death. And that will be elaborately described in a later chapter, in the 8th chapter. Next, Krishna instructs Arjuna in what is called as Dharma Yuddha, fighting on religious principles. He tells Arjuna that considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. This battle of Kurukshetra is not simply being fought in a whimsical way. It's not the Pandavas are greedy for getting a chance to rule over the world. They are not power hungry politicians. The common people, they require protection. So the word Kshatriya is explained as one who protects others from any harm, any danger. So it is a Kshatriya's duty to protect the citizens and thereby maintain themselves by collecting taxes. In exchange for giving protection, the Kshatriyas collect taxes and they rule the state and they maintain themselves. So, since this battle is being fought on religious principles, Dharma Yuddha, because all attempts were made to avoid this battle. But since the battle could not be avoided, therefore this is actually a Dharma Yuddha. The Pandavas have no choice. Yudhishthira reduced his request to 5 villages for the 5 brothers, so that they can maintain themselves simply by the minimum requirement, just by ruling 5 villages. But Duryodhana refused. So therefore, this Yuddha, this battle of Kurukshetra is a Dharma Yuddha. So for a Kshatriya, there is no better engagement than fighting in Dharma Yuddha. And Krishna further tells Arjuna that one who fights in the Dharma Yuddha, the doors of the heavenly planets are open for him. Arjuna was concerned that by fighting in this battle, he is going to go to hell. But Krishna is telling, because this is a Dharma Yuddha, certainly you are not going to go to hell by fighting in this battle. You are destined or eligible to go to heaven. If you do not fight in this religious war, then you will incur sin for neglecting your duty, and in that way you will actually incur sinful reactions. Arjuna is thinking, by fighting in the battle I am going to incur sin. Krishna is telling, by not fighting you are going to incur sin. You see how Arjuna feeling compassion for his kinsman, he had mistakenly thought that he should not fight in the battle to avoid killing his kinsman. But Krishna is telling, by not fighting in the battle, you're going to incur sin. And also, Krishna is telling, people will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored as a Kshatriya, dishonor is worse than death. A Kshatriya cannot tolerate insult. So when people will speak of Arjuna leaving the battlefield and going away because he was afraid of facing the enemy, that will be an insult which Arjuna cannot tolerate. Krishna is telling, people will think that you left the battlefield out of fear only. They'll consider you a coward. Therefore, you should not run away from this battlefield. You should actually stand up and fight. Either you'll be killed in the battlefield and you'll attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. So therefore, Krishna tells, get up and fight with determination. He concludes by telling, finally, at the end of this instruction, that you should fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you'll never incur sin. What's the meaning of fight for the sake of fighting? Actually, it means that Arjuna has to fight in this battle because Krishna desires this battle. Now, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. It is Krishna who has arranged the miscreants to come to Kurukshetra to fight this battle. And Krishna wanted Arjuna and the Pandavas to actually kill all the miscreants in this battle. Because Krishna had come for reducing the burden of the earth. When the earth was overburdened by miscreants, by demons, Krishna had come to reduce the burden by killing all these demons. So he wanted Arjuna to kill these demons who are posing as Kshatriyas. So therefore, it is clear that Krishna wants this battle. Therefore, Arjuna should fight in this battle without considering loss or gain, happiness or distress, victory or defeat. And in this way, Arjuna will never incur any sin. Stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.